Oh, friends, my friends, welcome back to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I don't know how far I'm going to be able to go in this show because, and if you've been following along to the updates I've been trying to put out on social media, the true, not flu-like symptoms, but the true influenza, this is not messing around. This show is a top 10, but it's my personal top 10. Because the way I was thinking about it, and by the way, I'm Dan Bespris for Old Man Squad. I have some vocal strength right now, so we're going to do our best to get through this show. And then, again, we're kind of like easing back in. I don't know how it's going to go. But the point is, I did that 2-hour live fundraiser on Friday when I was already starting to feel a little bit achy. And I thought maybe, I was pretty sure I was getting sick, but I didn't know what was going on. And then Saturday and Sunday, literally couldn't get out of bed. Whatever you guys got from me on social was like squinting at my phone while basically passed out in the bed. Yesterday, I was able to move around the apartment a little bit. Today, I feel a lot better, but there's some wheezing still going on. The flu is rough, dude. And this is, I get the flu vaccine every year because my kids get it, so I just get it at the same time as them. I don't think I've actually had the flu, influenza-A, probably in decades, and I would prefer not to have it for decades again. So my thought process here is there's no way I can go back and cover everything that we didn't talk about on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. It's too much, and most of it is obsolete by now. So instead, today's show, as we ease back in a little bit, is my top 10 stories from the time that I've been on my deathbed. Can I also just say, January sucks this year. The whole frickin' city burned down. And as we're trying to get back into the swing of things, flu hits the family? Come on, man. Take a break, January. Lord. Anyway, so these are the Dan Bespris top 10 storylines basically over the last week. Because the last time we did a show that was on straight fantasy was Thursday. That's crazy. I've never gone that long. In the history of this show, of my old show, whatever, I've never gone that long without doing some kind of fantasy-centric show. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through today's in one piece. But we're going to try, damn it. So please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're new to the program. You're also wondering why the hell I'm spending 3 minutes at the front end of the show telling you about my flu and what we're going to talk about on the show. Well, it's because we didn't have an episode for 4.5, 5 days. This is like, it feels like it's been about 4 months in Dan podcast years. Anyway, do it. You know what? Honestly, I don't care. Like it, don't like it. Subscribe, don't subscribe. I just got to get something out to you guys. Here's how we're gonna do it. I have 10 players. I'm gonna throw their pictures up on the screen, and then we're gonna talk about them and why they're a story right now. And we're gonna get in and out of here in less than 25 minutes because my voice isn't gonna last any longer than that. Cool. First storyline of the time we've been gone is Kel'el Ware, who, as many of you know, put up some big-time Summer League numbers, but so far this year has been, I don't want to say languishing, but kind of hanging out. He's been the backup to Bam Adebayo. We've had very few missed games for Bam. I think 1 or 2, maybe the entire season. I think we're sitting on 1. And, of course, he had this gigantic game when Bam sat out. 19 points, 13 rebounds, a steal, a block, 7 of 11 shooting. He had all 3 of his 3-pointers, and admittedly that number is not one that's going to hold long term. But I don't say that was like eye-opening because we all knew right from the beginning of the year that Kel'el Ware has amazing fantasy potential, but there just wasn't any path to getting to it. He's also a 70% free throw shooter. Again, limited numbers there, but that's not a break your team type of number. My good friend Jonas Nader, his fantasy career on hiatus, but he was always a pioneer of per 36s, which I think we should scale back to more like per 28s because other than the big time, all the time starters, you're really just never going to see anybody get to that number. But if we're talking about Ware's per 28s, this year you'd be looking at about 14 and 8 with a steal and 2 blocks on very good percentages for a center. That's cool. But we saw no earthly way of getting to that marker until Sunday, when Ware played 34 minutes, many of them, about half, alongside Bam Adebayo. And we've seen him put up pretty good numbers in limited minutes anyway. You know, he had 8 and 11 against the Lakers in only 17 and a half minutes. He's been regularly getting 6 to 9 rebounds in those low minute counts. Not every time, but it's happened like enough where you were like, yeah, like this guy still, he profiles as a really interesting fantasy player. But now the fact that Bam can sort of step out and hit a three, not really, but a little bit, and Ware can step out and hit a three. He's shooting 40%, by the way, from downtown. Again, very low number of tries, but he's capable. And given all the uncertainty swirling around Jimmy Butler and how little trust they have in the other fringe players, to the point where like they're sort of like trying out a different fringe guy in every ball game, this one made a lot of sense. They wanted to have someone big in there against Wemby at all times. That was part of it. And I don't know that, you know, the Ware-Bam tandem duo is going to work in every ball game. But the fact that it's now a possibility pretty much meant you have to pick up Ware. So go grab Kel'el Ware. If you're in Roto, I don't think that I would necessarily start him in the very next ball game, although it sounds like Tyler Hero might miss that one. So if ever there was an opportunity, maybe this would be the one. Head-to-head, you probably just play it out through the trade deadline, which is now just a shade over 2 weeks away. It's 16 days. We've blown all of our time to get likes on our trade deadline show, but whatever. So Kel'el Ware, fun story number one. Make sure he's getting added. And honestly, at this point, don't stop to think twice about it. Fred's Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, Bet Online is your ultimate game day companion. They've got the largest selection of odds on everything from football, wrapping up these days. They've got the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and so much more. Bet Online is unquestionably the number one sports betting source for the new year, even if you hate January, like I obviously do. Touchdowns, three-pointers, and hat tricks. Bet Online as you covered on every game, every play, and every win. Bet Online, the game starts here. Next fun storyline is Onyeka Okongwu, who finally, after I believe I was counting it out on my fingers and toes to make sure I had the number of days right, but I'm pretty sure it's been 75 years of waiting, has finally passed Clint Capella for the starting job in Atlanta. It's been a long time coming for Okongwu. He'd been playing really, really well for 3 games off the bench prior to the swap. And the swap changes everything. Because now, Okongwu, for one, gets to play more of his minutes with a true point guard out there. Like now you're guaranteed he's going to be with Trae Young more of the time. I don't know how that, like, if it's going to be a lot more or a little more, probably a little more, but that's good for him. Second thing is, you have the first crack at bigger minutes. In the old configuration, Okongwu had to play great and Capella had to be bad for the minute split to flip in Okongwu's direction. There's sort of 4 combinations and permutations of how they could be. They could both be good, both be bad. Clint could be up, Okongwu could be down, or flip that. You call it A, B, B, A, A, or B, B. Basically, it's the 4, choose 2. If you remember permutations and combinations from high school math. In the old configuration, if they were both good, the minutes were pretty much split down the middle. Capella probably winning by ever so slight hair. If Capella was good and Okongwu was bad, Capella won the minutes. If they were both bad, Capella generally won the minutes by a little bit. But if Capella was bad and Okongwu was good, great. Then Onyeka saw the little bump. As the starter, that now flip-flops. If they're both good, Okongwu was the starter. He's going to get his minutes. It's going to be pretty close to even, but it'll be that little tick towards Okongwu instead of the other way. Instead of it being, 24.5, 23.5 in Clint's favor, it'll be 24.5 to 23.5 in Okongwu's favor. It's a minute. Doesn't feel like a lot, but it's a minute. It's a 5% bounce. Maybe it's an extra minute and 40, whatever. Now you're in a situation where only a terrible Okongwu game combined with a good Clint Capella game is the one where you see the low minutes for Onyeka. So I expect his minute number this year to jump from 24, where it's been, to 25, 26 range, which is more like what it was last year. But his usage is better. He's just doing more this season, which we all kind of figured would happen because the DeJounte Murray usage had to get split among everyone, and Bogdan Bogdanovic has not really picked up his usage either. So Okongwu is a must-roster player, and in less of a, like Kel'el Ware we just talked about a minute ago as a guy we still need a few things to kind of break his way. Okongwu's a guy you can pick up and you can start immediately. Next name on our board is Scoot Henderson. Scoot moved into the starting lineup 4 games back when Denny Avdia and Jeremy Grant were each out and put up 39 stinking points in that game. 6 assists, 8 3-pointers. Obviously, that was an outlier, but he deserved a pickup once we saw that. Next game he started again. He had 16 and 6. A little bit more of a repeatable set of numbers there. 43% shooting instead of 72. Okay, I like that. If that's the number we're looking at as more of the baseline, I'm on board. He moved back to the bench in the following game when Jeremy Grant came back and still had 21 and 11. The shooting was, again, higher than you'd expect, and the blocks were high, but the opportunity, this was against a good Houston defense, by the way, and the assists were really nice. And now in the last ball game, despite Jeremy Grant being back, Scoot went back into the starting lineup. This was for Anthony Simons now, and had 25, 7, and 8. So admittedly, some things are breaking his way. But what this is telling us isn't so much important in the what happens tomorrow zone of the world. Or tonight, I guess. I think Portland plays, they're in Miami tonight. As much as it is, what does it mean for after the trade deadline in 2.5 weeks? Because now all what we're being told is that Scoot needs only one guy out of the way to be a difference-making fantasy dude. And so to that end, first of all, yes, obviously you pick Scoot up like immediately, and he probably was picked up a couple games back. But the more important note on Scoot, at least as far as this show is concerned, is he's a guy you got to hold through the trade deadline now. Because we're seeing that the Blazers are pivoting towards giving him more responsibility, and they're looking for ways to do it. Next name on the list is Isaiah Collier, who's put up a lot of really interesting lines lately, mostly heavy on the assists. Admittedly, Utah is in one of the premier pre-tanking postures of anybody in the NBA. They're pretty much playing 1, maybe 2 out of like 7 rotation guys every night, and then just a mishmash of weirdos. Jordan Clarkson's been out a while. Colin Sexton is getting days off basically every other game right now. Walker Kessler's pretty much playing with a rest day here and there. Keontae George is back after a long layoff. Larry Markkinen is out. Did I already say John Collins? No, I think I said Jordan Clarkson. So anyway, all that to say, with Collier, you're going to have some pretty severe efficiency issues. The turnovers are high. The steals are not that high. The shooting is bad. The free throws are not that good. So in this instance, you're really stat hunting. You're looking for assists, and you're looking at them as kind of like the be-all, end-all of whether or not this is a guy who falls into your lineup. So in my estimation, Collier's a guy that's a little bit more team-specific. I like him a lot, but he has some massive issues with his fantasy game. It's pretty amazing, by the way, to have somebody that's averaging 13 and 11 assists over the last week, and he's ranked outside the top 200. And that's because he's been a punt field goal, punt free throw, punt turnover, punt threes point guard, which you can get over the field goal. You could even get over the turnovers, but the free throws and the threes are a hard pill to swallow. So legitimately, he's been a positive, and a big one, mind you, in assists, one category. He's been a positive lately. And everything else, he's either been kind of even with the rest of the league or sub-average. And so I like Collier in a lot of spots, but not so much in Roto and not so much in head-to-head spots where you need some of the categories where he's actually like straight up killing you. Hey guys, I mentioned it last week and a couple of you signed up already. Again, I don't know that I need you guys to even make a deposit right away, but please do head to underdogfantasy.com and check out our newest partnership. Once I get back into the swing of things here, you're going to see me putting together cards that we can kind of all play together on Underdog. For today, because I just wanted to get this show going, I'm just going to show you guys basically what the Underdog homepage looks like so you can play along with me here. You can see I've got $100 in my account. Thank you to Underdog for providing me as a content creator with that base funds. If you use the code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, it's all one word, or click on the link in the show description when you sign up, you'll unlock this bonus right here you can see on your screen. It's $1,000, up to $1,000 in bonus cash at a 50% deposit match. Also, and you can see just below that, it's called the gimme pick here. Like the gimme pick right now is Nikola Jovic scoring a point. One, he has to go over a half a point, higher than that. So if you use Old Man or click on the link when you sign up and you make that first deposit, you'll unlock those two promos. It'll also let them know, obviously, who sent you. Once you're there, underdogfantasy.com, and you're ready to go, you can click over on NBA if that's your game of choice. Obviously, you're going to throw this Nikola Jovic one on your card. You see it pop up over there. And then you start to scroll through, see what else looks good. I, again, haven't deep dived any of the games happening this evening. New York is Brooklyn. Orlando, Toronto. Might not be a bad idea to take some unders with Toronto because Orlando plays these defensive-minded, grind-them-out games, and they can't score at all. Again, like if you've got a taste of the DFS style, you probably have a better angles to play on this stuff. Finding teams where there are key guys out, like if Tyler Hero is going to be out, if he doesn't play, you don't want to put a bunch of Tyler Hero in your card. But if you think Hero is going to get ruled out, maybe you look at some of the other Miami players. Bam, you could go over 15.5 points. You could go, dude, trust Duncan Robinson? No, I don't. But look for other Heat that maybe would go over. Hero is downgraded to questionable. You could look at Denver and Philly. Anyway, you start to fill up the card. Like, what if let's go back here and let's say we're going to take Duncan Robinson higher than 11.5 points. Or the idiotic thing to do, but I'm not going to put this card in because, again, I haven't fully researched it. But you just put this stuff together. Like, let's say I put in $5, and if I get them both correct, I make 15. So this is how you play Underdog. It's so much fun. It's you make a pick'em card. Basically, you go over, you're higher, you go lower, peel it all together, start multiplying your cash. Use the awesome information that our buddies in our DFS show put out if you want to try to sort of localize which players are going to have better or worse evenings, and go win some money. So again, check out our buddies over at underdogfantasy.com. They have a great Twitter feed, by the way, as well, that gets you NBA news as it breaks. It's super fast. It's a great way to stay caught up, especially for someone like me that's been sick for 4.5 days. That's the optimal way to do it. And again, very soon, we're going to put together a card live on a show together, but that day is not today. Next name that I want to talk about is Daniel Gafford, who put up a Mavs record 30, 15, and 7 game his last time out. 31 points, 15 rebounds, 7 block shots. And yeah, he's been a Goliath with Derek Lively out. Unfortunately, and you guys know how much I love Daniel Gafford, so it has pained me for most of this season to say this is a guy you need to sell on anytime you have the opportunity. If you can't sell, fine, screw it. Enjoy the injury replacement numbers. He's a monster when he gets starters level minutes. We saw it last year. He's a third rounder in starters minutes. But you also have to know he's the second choice for that Mavs team. When Derek Lively's healthy, he's the man, and Lively's the backup. And you can see it by the game logs here. 12 minutes, 17 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 19. Lively goes down, 30, 20, 34. Is a pretty clear, almost one-to-one correlation. But man, can Gafford put up numbers when he gets some playing time. So see if you can tell him for basically any rest of season center. If not, you just ride it out, take the stats that he gives you, call it a day. No big deal. Nikola Jovic is the next name on the list. I know he's had a couple of slightly quieter games, but to me, he's still a must-roster player. And, again, if Hero sits out a ball game, the Jovic stuff becomes even more relevant. I just really like the well-roundedness of his game. Check out some of these round lines for Jovic. Last time out, blowout win, so his minutes were slightly depressed. We still had 14, 2, and 5 with 2 steals and 4 3-pointers. Game before that, in a blowout loss, he had 16, 4, and 4 with a couple of threes. Lost to the Lakers, didn't shoot the ball all that well, or that was the game before against the Clippers. Against the Lakers, he had 12, 4, and 8 with a block and 2 threes. Against the Clippers, he shot 1 for 10, but he still had 6 boards, 3 assists, a steal, a block, and a 3. He just does a little bit of everything. And that's what you're looking for. He's a great roto-level player. Jovic is very much a hold. Better, I would think, even in roto than head-to-head. And with the rumors coming out today that the Heat apparently are inching closer to moving Jimmy Butler sooner than later, then you really want to see what goes on here. Yeah, his spot could get blown up. There's no question about that. But maybe it doesn't. And while we're on the topic of guys that are seeing a nice bounce, how about Kelly Oubre Jr., who's been very good lately with Paul George and Joel Embiid missing time. Embiid dealing with the knee again after the foot thing. The Sixers, I have to admit now, are inching closer to a lost year. I did not think it was going to get this bad. And I figured they'd be able to stay partially afloat, even without Embiid. But George continuing to go down and just the lack of reliable depth once you drop 2 of your 3 best players, which, again, would pretty much knock out any team. But the Sixers, it's been the whole damn year. It's one, the other, or both. And Oubre is just going to keep doing stuff as long as they're giving him the leash to do it. What if those guys ever come back, then we move on. But right now, Oubre looks like a longer-term guy than it appeared even a couple of weeks ago when it seemed like Embiid, it might get days off here and there, but it seemed like they were starting to figure out how to keep the swelling in check. Well, we're back at it again. This one's a little bit after the fact, but here's Cole Anthony, who's game time call for the Magic with an illness. He started playing more minutes when literally everyone on the Magic went down. Franz, Paolo, Suggs, Mo Wagner, they were all out at the same time. KCP was out too. But interestingly, as some of those guys have come back, Paolo's playing again, not full minutes yet, but he's there. Goga's out now. Cole Anthony has continued to play pretty sizable minutes. It's not 35, 36, 37, but it's 29, 30. And when he's out there, he's the secondary guy if Paolo's with him, or the primary guy if Paolo's not. And Anthony's not a great percentages dude, but it's good enough to where you just sort of take the bad with the good, and you kind of assume that he's going to rebound okay for his size. His assists are going to be decent because a lot of the time he's out there, he is the primary. His steals are okay, but not great. He's around a steal, little over a steal per game in these kind of now starters minutes. And yeah, it is still injured player related. If Franz comes back, that'll probably mess him up. If Suggs comes back, that'll likely mess him up. But I personally thought that when Paolo came back, that would derail Cole Anthony, but it didn't. So at this point, he's an injury replacement guy, but you're just riding it out to see how far it goes. Tari Eason came back. This was like during the fires that we were worried about. Came back on the 16th, which was what, Thursday of last week? Yeah, we didn't get to talk about it because Friday was our 2-hour fundraiser show. So we didn't talk about Tari Eason, who, I mean, I don't know. He might play a couple of weeks and then have to sit a month again. It's a distinct possibility. He basically was out from mid-December to mid-January. But as long as he's upright, he is a must-roster, must-start guy, especially with Jabari Smith Jr. out. Because Thompson was taking all of that extra stuff. And you can bet your butt that if Tari Eason can get his knee right to where he can play 26 or more minutes a game, he can be top 50. And he's coming off a 5-steal game his last time out. So make sure that Tari Eason is on rosters. He got dropped in a lot of spots while he was out for this month because we had no idea when he was coming back. And lucky me, I got him in 2 places where he got dropped over that span. So I love that. And the last name we're going to talk about today is probably also the most boring of them. So maybe I should have done this in another order, and that's Cason Wallace, who has quietly been around a top 90 guy the last couple of weeks since his minutes trended back up to 30. And he's not going to blow you away with scoring. He's not going to blow you away with threes. He's not going to blow you away with assists or rebounds. He will blow you away with steals. Those are going to be very good. But what he does is get a little bit of everything. That's the Cason Wallace way right now. A little bit of everything. And it takes us back to a principle that I used to talk about on this show, like back in 2016, 17, right around when we started this thing, which I called the Marvin Thad line, because back then, if Marvin Williams or Thaddeus Young played 30 minutes a game, they had fantasy value. And if they didn't, they didn't. And that's basically what Cason Wallace is right now. Over the last 2 weeks, he's played 30 minutes and 30 seconds a game. And over that span, he's number 90 with 11, 4, and 3, 1.5 steals and 1.5 threes, almost no turnovers, and pretty good field goal percent over that stretch. If the minutes tick down, he doesn't get there. If the field goal percent ticks down, he might still get there because the steals could potentially come back up a little bit. But Cason Wallace feels like the new member of the Marvin Thad Club before Thaddeus Young became an incredible passer in those last couple of years, where if he's playing 30 minutes every night, he's probably fantasy startable. And if you're punting points, it gives you more wiggle room there. But even if you're not, he's been startable lately. Is he the least fun player that we talked about on today's show? Unquestionably, that answer is yes. Onyeka Okongwu, Kel'el Ware. I mean, these guys are way fun. Scoot is super fun. Let's see. Gafford, Collier, Oubre, Cole Anthony. These guys are more injury level guys. Nikola Jovic is fun in case his job sticks. And then you got Cason Wallace, who's like not really being challenged for his role, but also doesn't really do anything all that much fun. He's like who you go pick up if you sold on Dyson Daniels to go fill out some other part of your 9 category, and you're like, well, I got to get my steals somewhere now. Cason Wallace is probably the guy you go pick up. He's like Dyson Daniels with less steals, but also doesn't hurt you as much in the various percentages. It's not the same thing, but you can kind of see the connecting thread. Oh, my voice made it. Barely. We'll see if I can talk again the rest of the day. Thank you for hanging out, everybody. I'm so sorry for needing 4 days off. I legitimately have not been that sick in probably 20 years. I do not, 0 out of 10 will not recommend the flu. The actual flu. Many of you have been watching this show or listening to this show since I started it 7-8 years ago. And think about how many illnesses I've had over that span. Because I started the show like right after we had our first kid, and he went through preschool, and now the second kid is going through preschool. I am sick literally all the time, and I never miss an episode, and I missed 4. That's how bad this was. Man alive. Don't get it, man. Don't get the flu. Do whatever you can. Bubble yourself off. Hopefully we can get back to more normalcy as soon as maybe tomorrow. The trend line from my health is good right now. Again, like, rate, subscribe, all that stuff. If you have time, I get it. If you're just like, screw you, Dan, you haven't done a show in forever. My team is falling apart and I miss you. And you don't want to like, rate, and subscribe. I get it. But find me on social media. That's easier for me to do right now. I can type a lot easier than I can yell into a microphone for a half hour. And we'll get, hopefully, at least 1, maybe 2 shows going tomorrow because we're so far behind. We got to get caught up on some stuff. For now, however, I'm Dan Baspers on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. I'll see you guys someplace as long as I'm out of bed.